Hello everybody, I'm Marco Guadalupi, CTO and co-founder of Sateliot. Today, we're finding out what are some of the most frequent searches on satellite in Google. Okay, let's see the first question. What is a satellite on iPhone? Yeah, that's a good question. Some years ago, Apple with iPhone 14 introduced the first service of satellite connectivity in a smartphone. Basically, when you have an iPhone 14, 15, 16, you can have a situation where you don't have coverage. In that case, a new icon will appear in your screen. This icon means that satellite connectivity is available for your smartphone. At the end, Apple introduced this functionality to go beyond terrestrial coverage. It's working in different versions and is associated only to iPhone for that specific network. Second question. Let's see. What is a satellite radio? Okay, that's more generic question. When we talk about satellite, we identify three kinds of satellite. Satellite for science missions, satellite for Earth observations, and satellite for communication. When we are talking about satellite for communication, we are referring satellite that has a main mission, so a main payload. Payload is the instrument we have inside the satellite for a specific mission. That payload is a radio. Basically, as in terrestrial network, is a device that can transmit waveforms, can transmit a signal, and can receive information from the ground. This communication, this radio can be bidirectional, can be unidirectional, can be used for radio, like our FM radio, can be used for TV, so this is called broadcasting TV, can be used for internet access, or can be used for IoT. That's the case of Sateliot, for example. We use a radio inside the satellite to send and receive messaging connected to Internet of Things or broadband access from other kind of company. So that's the first two questions. Quite interesting, just to introduce the concept. Let's see a second bunch of questions. How is the satellite? Let's see what. How is satellite data collected? Okay, that's quite interesting. As I said in the last question, in a satellite you can have a radio to send and receive messages, but what happens when this information is inside the satellite? Okay, the satellite has to be connected to the ground to discharge, so to download this information in a mission control center where we deliver this information to the end user. Okay, to establish this connection, there are different methods. A satellite can stay in different orbit. First point can be in a geo orbit. So the satellite is something like in a fixed position compared to the Earth, because the satellite is moving at the same speed of the rotation of the Earth. Satellite can be at different altitude in called LEO, for example, low Earth orbit, or MEO, for example. In this kind of orbit, the satellite is moving continuously around the Earth. So there is no cable between the satellite and the ground. So you have to connect via radio again. So there is another radio that is called feeder link, for example. That's one of the names used, or can be called inter-satellite link. When we are connecting a satellite to other satellite, we are connecting the satellite to the ground. That's called the feeder link. So this second radio is in charge of uploading information to the satellite and downloading information to the satellite. For example, a mega constellation to deliver internet, you have satellite connecting between each other, and some of them connected to a gateway on the ground. So if you are working with the geo satellite, this satellite is continuously connected to a big gateway on the Earth. If you are talking about a space station, like International Space Station, that is flying around the Earth, sometimes you are connected, sometimes you are not connected. So at the end, data can be collected and downloaded to the ground using this kind of radio link. Second question about how is the satellite launched into space? That's fantastic. At the end, launching a satellite in space is quite challenging. It requires a big rocket to leave the Earth. You know, the Earth is a big influence on any object that is near the Earth. That is the universal gravitation strength. So this gravitation allow us, for example, to work on the Earth. If we want to put a satellite in orbit, we need to move far away from the Earth the satellite. It means minimum 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers, 600 kilometers, it depends on the orbit. There is a moment when we are launching the object at so high speed with the right angle that allow us to put what is called put the satellite in orbit. So satellite has the right speed to fly around. We say fly, satellites are not flying actually, to fall, okay? The satellite starts moving around the Earth, compensating with his eccentricity acceleration, the gravity effort of the Earth on the satellite. So there is an equilibrium of strength between gravitation and these centrifugal strength. So there is, thanks to that, the satellite is staying continuously in orbit. Why is satellite internet so slow? Okay, why is satellite internet so slow? Actually, it's not slow. That's the first point. Internet by satellite is not slow. We have different opportunities, different solutions today in the market. Some of them are delivered to the end user using geosatellite. So again, satellite that has a fixed position compared to the movement of the Earth. In that case, you can see in the market many megabits per second per user. You can buy a service for 1 meg, 10 meg, 50 meg, 100 meg. You can buy different kind of services for different kind of use. And then there are satellites that flying, for example, in LEO orbit, where you have also capacity that come from a few megabits per second to hundreds of megabits per second. The perception of the user is not based on the capacity. When people say internet is slow, at the end, never is, in general, is not associated to how many megabits we have. If I'm not wrong, over 10 megabits per second, you don't perceive many big difference if you are selling internet or if you are watching a movie. The point is the latency. Latency is a constant, is a KPI that measures the time between you request some information to a system and the system answer to your request. This latency, when you are using a satellite, change a lot compared to terrestrial infrastructure. So, for example, if you are working with a geosatellite, you have around 700 milliseconds. Okay. If you are working in terrestrial network, you are around maybe in fiber network 25, 35 milliseconds. If you are working with high-speed LEO satellite, maybe you are around 80 milliseconds. The big difference when we are sailing internet on terrestrial infrastructure, LEO satellite infrastructure, and geosatellite infrastructure is basically the latency. And the last question is, why is satellite important? Wow, satellite is important, actually. Satellite is important for many reasons. I don't remember exactly the figure, but every day when you wake up, you are using satellite. Why? For example, you are turning on the TV and you are receiving a signal. Okay, the digital signal of the TV, for example, is synchronized using GNSS. GNSS is a Global Navigation Satellite System. It's allowed to know the position, the timing of a system, for example. So, for example, current telecommunication systems are based on this timing signal generated by GNSS network. Your mobile phone, you receive a signal from your mobile operator because each base station is synchronized using GNSS information, for example. When you are driving your car, you are using your navigation tool. If you are making a call, again, you are using the GNSS system. If you are watching TV, if you are listening to radio, every day, continuously, you are using the satellite system. That's for your own personal use. But for example, if you are looking the weather forecast, weather forecast is based on a lot of information generated by satellite for Earth observation. If you are, for example, if you are flying in airplane between two continents, for example, maybe you are using a communication through a geosatellite. I mean, every day, each of us is using continuously satellite communication. The beginning it was for TV, but today it's for any kind of communication, any kind of information on weather, on contamination, pollution, traffic, navigation, position, everything. So yes, satellite is important. Access to space is important to bring satellite in space. So a sustainable use of space is very related to this question. If you don't use in a sustainable way, we can have problem because satellites need to be replaced. Thank you very much. This is the last question. Thank you, guys. Enjoy it.